Okay, we are back. After a few hours, took off to do some spraying. I had to spray for gremlins. Our live stream was taken down, and I'm sure it's entirely coincidental that we were talking about Andrew Tate and his CIA dad, who let him in on some of the big secrets. And as soon as we got into that, we were cut off. And yeah, CIA, gremlins, possibly both, not sure. But we're back, and we'll kind of pick up from where we left off. But a couple of things have changed in the meantime. New mic. It's actually the old mic that someone told me was bad, and apparently it's good. So we're on the good old mic, and the 24/7 live stream is back on. But instead of working with Odyssey, which drops after 12 hours and it's not reliable, I'm just going to stream the audio, which means I'm updating the source. I'm updating the library. So I'm going to be including a lot of interviews, possibly stuff from Dark Matter. Maybe that old Crater Earth interview would be good. But I'll put a lot of them together, the Jordan Maxwell stuff, and I'm just going to load up the archives after the live stream this evening so that the 24/7 is always interesting. And then, of course, we'll just hijack it for these live streams whenever. And the archives, of course, will contain all of the video evidence we are presenting. So we'll wait just a few moments here before we get into the thick of it for the raft to assemble. The phone number is on the screen. 505-510-4226. So just to give you an idea, we have right now about almost 100 people on the Twitter account, IPS Think Tank. And then we have a scattered grip of penguins here and there, but it's mostly going to be concentrated on the main YouTube channel, and I'll put a link below. That one turns on and off, and I delete the content so I don't get flagged. The backup account will stay on 24/7, which is how we used to always do it. So if you click that link, you can get onto the main channel if you want. So let's get into, let's see, we were talking about Tate's dad, and that's part of a bigger pattern. You may have picked up on this. There's this controlled demolition of the right wing. At least that's what it looks like. Telegram, French police detain co-founder and chief executive. It's not true that Apple was getting rid of Telegram. That was a rumor. And rumors and fear spread very quickly here in Trutherville. They're all very scared. And weirdly, they're almost anticipating the end of times. They're very doomy. They're always waiting for the big one, the blackout. The QAnon movement has been reinvigorated because Donald Trump has re-truthed several Q-related posts, which they take as confirmation. And somewhere tonight I'll come up with this video. I have a link somewhere, and it shows there's a shrine in India where they worship a statue of Donald Trump, and they pour libations on it, where he's kind of become a god. And in the context of the Monkey King, a human being becoming a transcendent, a god, it's kind of what we're talking about. Donald Trump's apotheosis. Antichrist, if you ask me, but we'll see. The script shows him becoming Biff Tannen, Antichrist, Trackdown. You know that 1958 Western, Trackdown? The episode called End of the World had the Trump character, and this has been talked about since 2016. But we didn't have the entire picture because a lot of the stuff hadn't come true yet. If you had looked at that predictive programming, that episode, Trackdown, End of the World 1958, you would have seen that the Trump character, after he promises to build a wall to protect them from a cosmic force, so there you have illegal aliens and alien aliens tied in there, he gets arrested. They arrest the snake oil salesman. Now, speaking of, okay, I was thinking about Trump today because of the orange face paint, and I came across this very interesting tweet having to do with Tang, because Tang is one of these things that is seen in the Stanley Kubrick film, The Shining. Tang, just buckets of it filling the cabinet. Well, what is Tang? It's this orange drink that went up into space with the astronauts. And what is the significance of Tang going to the moon? Well, according to Anna Nicole Wordsmith, Tang means serpent tongue. Now, I looked this up, and it turns out that yes, Tang is a projecting shank a prong, a fang, or a tongue. Goes on to say from Wiktionary, it's a variant of the word tongue from the Old Norse pointed metal tool, or perhaps Old Norse tongue. So there's a connection here, and there's another part here, from a root word meaning to bite. Original meaning of tang was serpent's tongue. So now let's connect it to everything else she put in the tweet here. Stanley Kubrick is rumored to have filmed the moon landing and placed Tang and twins in the film The Shining. Now, there's the symbol of NASA, which has the serpent's tongue on it, which many have already correlated this, and I agree, because I would contend that space travel is just an allegory for higher states of consciousness, and the snake is used as a symbol of ascending. Like climbing the tree of life, you'll see the symbol of the serpent. Some would even say that the S-A-A-N and then the serpent tongue, if you just put it together, you get Satan. Just start with the tongue as a T. And T minus 10, 9, 8, they do the countdown. And all of this stuff is like hypnotic induction, and it's probably covert Satan worship. I mean, it's obvious that it's a stylized obelisk, which they call a rocket, that they're blasting up into space. And you cannot really separate sun worship and obelisks from snakes and serpent symbolism. So it's all there. NASA, the space program, is an Egyptian mystery school when it comes down to it. Joined by This Is Where It's At, X322, Armin Ra, Reverse History, Lee Lesko, Tomonoid3, Symbia, Jessica Lynn. Says, that's my new favorite Twitter account. Oh, yeah, this is an excellent account. In fact, let me go ahead and post a link. It's Anna Nicole Wordsmith. Now, I'm semi-trolling some of these calendar people, the Dramiccia sharpshooters. And what I mean is there's a number of these individuals who are sharing tweets and that are pointing at, I'll show you an example. And I think these are specious connections. I think they're making these connections. These aren't legitimate prophecies, but they're always right, but they're always wrong. Like, they're always right in hindsight, and they can always make it look like they're on target when predicting a date, but then it never happens. And there's a pattern. And I keep calling them out on this. But a number of these accounts have noted that August 29th, if you reverse search your calendars and count back days, months, and years to a lot of 666s, etc., they all seem to point to ominous clues. Now, I'm suggesting that these are not authentic connections, but one of the reasons they do this, in my opinion, is I think it's to create fog, to perhaps mystify, is what I mean by fog. So now, instead of looking at the correlation between entertainment and future news events as an advanced form of propaganda, people look at it as evidence of a higher power, because there's no way human beings could have calculated all of this, they say. It's like, really? Well, you just calculated it. You just figured it out with your gematria calculator. You're saying that no human could do what you're apparently doing here? So I have a little bit of a beef with them. But here's an example. Like, I don't know if this is legit, because there's a very specific methodology here, which you can find described in the Texas sharpshooter fallacy descriptions, which goes into how you can fire a bunch of shots, look for a tight grouping, draw a circle, and call yourself a sharpshooter, as long as nobody knows how many times you missed. And that's what we're not seeing here. But here's an example of one of these connections. The movie The Omen from 2006 turns 6,660 days old tomorrow. So again, Omen, the movie coming out, and then you add 6,660 days, and it ends tomorrow. Now, I don't know if that's impressive or not, because if it wasn't that many days, they would change it. They would say, well, it was 6,660 days and or 6 months and 2 weeks. They break it down. They'll further divide the months into weeks and then days and then hours, and just like, it's like you can't be wrong if you apply such a methodology. But there are even more. Here's another one. May 21st, 2020 until August 29th is 223 weeks. Why is that a big deal? Apparently it's a big deal because 223 is 322 backward, which is significant to skull and bones. Again, these are weak connections, tenuous, meaningless. And I think that these are, again, evidence of maybe an active measure to kind of soften up the minds of the people who are looking too closely and who might have a chance of figuring it out. And this kind of short circuits that. Because if you fall for gematria calculated predictions, even though they're always wrong, then your methodology is flawed. Let's find another one here. On August 23rd, 24th, pick a day, RFK Jr. will be 70 years, 7 months, and 7 days. What's the significance? Anyway, all I have to say is that tomorrow is a big deal to these people. Tomorrow is a huge deal to them. And if nothing happens tomorrow, because they're all calling it out, I'm going to have to call them out. And my plan is to publish a story on this for September's Insider. And I'm going to publish a story on it, whether it comes true or not. And I'm just suggesting here that they were wrong about the Super Bowl getting nuked, and we all wanted that to happen. So don't get your hopes up. Thank you for feeding the crack, Gwen Symbia. Now, I don't have my backup audio on. I'm not sure if I heard. Did the Godzilla jump up, or do I have to add that still? This is where it's at. It says, Tim, there's a movie called Monolith that came out in 2022. Very interesting stuff in a boring movie. I'll take a look. Presently, I'm watching The Witcher and Bad Monkey and Mission Impossible. Like, I'm watching multiples at a time. I read multiple books at a time. It's just, I get more info that way, and I'll get bored, and of course, it's just too much, and I don't want to miss anything. And just 15 minutes in to Mission Impossible, they describe how they control humanity. They describe mass media. In fact, I think I even have a quote. It's actually going into an article. I was just going to lift it. I'm going to attribute it to the movie, of course, but I'm going to quote it. Let's take this quote. It's one of the best ones in some of these Dune ones I've come across, but I think it's an allusion to how things really work. And it has to do with the opening scene where the bad guys are all sitting in this room talking about how there's this AI which could somehow hijack control of everything. And the way they're talking about it, yeah, they're talking about artificial intelligence and some new thing. But it kind of seemed to me that on a deeper level, the movie producers, the metascripters behind it, were revealing something about how media itself already works, how it's already taken control. And I think what they called it was, they said it could create a carefully constructed digital illusion, and it said that government's power would be incontestable if implemented. And it was just drawing, I guess, our attention to the fact that we're pretty much vulnerable to the filter that we have to adopt over our perceptions. And our shared filter has already been hijacked. If it was ever not under some kind of monopolistic control, which is my contention, I think we have always been looking through Big Brother's viewfinder. And I would even go so far as to say that the worldview is mostly a product of omission more than anything. Okay, let's see here. Let me go through your comments. Phones are officially open. I want to catch up on what we missed from earlier today. Okay, I'll add in the crack, Gwen. Jessica Lynn says nothing will happen. Gotta be 8-4. There's always next year, says Tominoid. Howard Boyd says get him, Timmy. Okay, now we know. I'll fix it up. I appreciate the support. And if you notice, I've somewhat reorganized everything. We've added a camera. And I'm going to be updating the 24/7 and adding a lot more content. So, for example, I do record a lot of podcasts on the side that I generally don't have time to edit and stuff. And I think that what I might start doing is just throwing these into the folder. The objective is to replace a lot of the archives that are just endlessly cycling with some newer content relevant, especially since we're getting into the next phase. All right, back to, we talked about Tang, we talked about Anna Nicole Wordsmith. Now, Russian Vids used to talk about the color orange quite a lot. Russian Vids. He changed his name, Ukraine Vids, in solidarity with Zelensky. I think that's what he did. I haven't heard from Russian Vids lately. But the YouTuber formerly known as Russian Vids used to always say that orange is 33 in gematria. So apparently gematria calculators can calculate colors. So 33 is just another reference, which probably isn't far off. I'm pretty sure that Neil Armstrong, Neil A, which is alien backward, was paid $33 to go to the moon. You can find the receipt. Yeah, the U.S. government reimbursed Buzz Aldrin, so not Neil Armstrong. They probably all got paid the same. No, Buzz was paid $33, and I think it was because of the trip to the launch pad. But yeah, $33 reimbursement. Nothing strange about that. And I think, isn't his mother's maiden name Moon? Marion Moon? Something along those lines. Totally scripted and fake. Armin Rees says the true process is one of removal of the fakery we have with us, building our worldview, not one of acquisition of truth. That will be evident as what is left afterward. Yeah, the flaw in the reasoning that most of Trutherville applies to the situation is the ones who look very deeply into the psyops and they get into the code behind it. You know, some will say, "Oh, you're being distracted. Just focus on the false flag. This other stuff is just spooky stuff to entertain you, and it's truth or chicken feed. Pay no attention." Those individuals who do pay attention are led down these paths that lead them to think that they're seeing evidence of a simulation, because they're looking through a window at the world and they're seeing some bizarre things that don't make sense. And their flaw is they think they're looking through a window, when no, media, even alt media, is not a window, it's a filter. And when you see these deliberate correlations, the synchronization between the entertainment media and the news media, they want you to run to the conclusion that reality's rigged or reality's fake, it's all a sim, instead of recognizing that the worldview is fake, and that the worldview is faked to get you to loosen your hold on the real thing. They can convince you the ground beneath your feet is fake. I mean, that's not truth, or that's not where you should want to be going if you're in pursuit of the truth. I mean, it's pretty diabolical if you think about it. The people who are curious are fed a steady diet of fear porn and gaslighting meant to confuse, distract, and I think in many ways nullify them as critics of the establishment of big media. It's a big discrediting operation in many ways, and always has been. That's why we're quarantining. The MSM minus, the subtractive view, the skeptics, have to separate from the reactors and the ones who are immersed. And when I say that we're conscientious objectors from the Psy-War, I'm not saying head in the sand, not paying attention. Like in many ways, we're the only ones paying attention. What I mean is we're not responding to everything the second it's broadcast, which is how most people respond. Just assume there's like a reasonable expectation that you're going to get more information that could change your perspective within 2 or 3 days. You're under no obligation to believe them immediately. You don't have to sign on the dotted line right now. You don't have to sign off on the latest PSYOP. You can sleep on it. Estevan says, I'm not getting notifications. Sign up to the main channel. The backup channel is always on. Okay, let's see here. Amin Reese says, yes, but Tim, contemplate the fact that we are all to some extent fakers in our own psyche. Lies only work by self-deceit from the receiver. Yeah, a lot of the ways that people have been conditioned to become liars without knowing it is that they have accepted logical, fallacious reasoning, and it's sometimes selective. People are selectively irrational. But yeah, it's a philosophical crisis, is what it is. But I don't think in terms of we. Like, I'm not saying we're all fakers. I don't include myself in that. I have higher standards. I don't claim to believe stuff that I can't back up. What I pretty much lean on here are question marks. But it's not the passive, annoying, just asking questions, non accountable question marks that the truthers are so happy to hand out. My question marks are these are things that we must answer like yesterday. Like, it's critical that we find out what's behind these false explanations. Asking questions isn't good enough. There's too many people who will say, "Oh, I'm just asking questions." Maybe not. Maybe you're making an assertion, pretending it's a question, which is a common tactic. I'm just asking questions. No, you just made an assertion. They say, "I'm asking questions. Do your own research." That's truther bait, where they get truthers to take the bait and then they go to a conclusion that answers the question that was never valid in the first place. But it steered them away from the answer they could have found had they gone to some kind of authoritative source. Like, there's this tendency to say that science is the problem and you should run towards religion, like it's science versus religion. And that's wrong-headed, in my opinion. I happen to think that we have to make the distinction between science as ideology or scientism. Like, NASAtology isn't science, it's a religion. There's a difference. There's a point where real and objective is augmented or even completely replaced by fake. And we have the high ground here. We're the ones paying attention. We're the ones who weren't fooled by the space chorizo. Never let them forget that. You can't be fooled by something like that because you have a more advanced understanding of media. But there's nothing that they won't believe. The people of the screen, the people with their heads in the box. A. Nulful says we're just overrated chimps. That's a slander, and it's a bit of misanthropy. And they want you to accept that. That's why we have all this monkeypox stuff out right now. The monkeypox, the 90-foot monkey statue, the rage monkeys in all these various movies. Monkey Man 311 was the release date. The chimps ripping people's faces off in Nope, which was based on the George Floyd, or inspired by the George Floyd tape, where he was being kneeled upon by Derek Western chauvinism. If you look at the big picture right now, they're trying to convey this idea that man is just a bunch of angry apes trying to pretend like their lives have any meaning. I don't think that's true. And the reason I think it's not true is that it's kind of like there's a story. It's like the progressive utopianism has its own creation myth. And so they see man as between alien and ape, the bestial and the angelic. And in fact, I had this idea for creating kind of a new post-singularity Baphomet thing. Because that's what Baphomet is. It's man poised between beast and angel. And aliens are, in fact, the replacement concept for angels. Doesn't mean... I would say that both are constructs. But this monkey thing is the thing right now that's going around. Chimp crazy, chimp running around Ohio, all these monkey themes, and millions, 10 million people, was it a million people simultaneously playing a live video game where they are the Monkey King. New Perspective says, gotta watch 12 Monkeys again for clues. Yeah, you know what? We're gonna have to. And that's a great point you raise here. We need to revisit old predictive programming to see what it was predicting that hasn't happened yet. Think about this. There were so many people who figured out that The Shining had clues to Apollo 11, but none of them have ever made the connection, at least none of these big channels, to 9/11. And that's because 9/11 hadn't happened yet. But after 9/11 happened, now you're looking at a movie that contains predictive programming equally for 9/11 and then hints about Apollo 11. And then it even goes further, but you had to wait and see. Because post 2020, now you can see the corona stuff. Now the fake epidemic, the name Floyd is brought up, the symbol of the corona, it all ties together. But you wouldn't have known. So if you look back at older movies, you might find more. Trackdown's a great example. It's a 1958 TV show. And in 2016, you could see Trump, snake oil salesman. Maybe then he didn't know about the vax. Maybe then the wall thing made sense because it was built the wall. But it was later, it was Space Force. It was later that it was protecting us from a cosmic threat, possibly, or a threat from space, which is what the Trump in Trackdown was promising. So then you're like, okay, there's predictive programming. 4 years later, after Trump's in office, there's more to it. Well, here we are 4 years later, and Trump gets arrested. And in Trackdown, Trump gets arrested. So we do have to look back. Tom Wood says, if we only left the monolith alone. I think the monolith ultimately is the movie screen. It's your smartphone. It's the black mirror. And what it represents is the new man, the star child, the star man. The whole idea of David Bowman, star child, or David Bowie, star man, represents the new age where everyone is processed through the monolith. And what does that mean? It means that your psyche has been totally invaded by the ubiquitous mind control media apparatus, this monolithic entity, and now your subconscious mind, your dreaming mind, I guess you could say the movie world, the fictional universes have been merged with your real world perception. Like you've entered a simulation. Two into one, like the two of the sun and the moon, like Jungian symbolism. Sun is the left brain, you would say, or perhaps the logical, the light of day, whereas the subconscious would be represented by the moon, the dreaming mind, the part you don't control. So you have the symbol of the eclipse and the corona being a symbol of the union of the two. And to the power elite, what it means is that we're all bowing at their monolith, that they filter our collective realities. That's the ultimate symbol of their power and control. They exert authority over every human mind, except for us. Okay, let's continue through the notes. Tang on the moon. Okay, so this is another prophecy. Health Ranger interviewed Richard Mack, and he said on 10/7 this year, there's going to be a day of widespread terrorism across America carried out by illegals. I'll read the whole tweet or I'll skim through it. So 10/7, obviously an anniversary, so I guess we should expect hang gliders. Don't go to any raves. This is obviously a hoax, but listen to this. According to Health Ranger, it says here, there's the borders open as an invitation to domestic terrorism. I have sources. Oh, show your sources. Backing up intel on the presence of weapon systems in stash houses and storage lockers. I've heard this stuff before. Also missing is at least one surface-to-air missile system that can take down a commercial jet or, God forbid, something like Trump's private jet. Yeah, I kind of wouldn't worry about that. If they send a missile at Trump's private jet, it's going to miss and it's going to kill some people in a field somewhere. Maybe it'll hit a church and kill them. But don't worry, God will protect Trump. It'll hit a fire department. Kill the firemen inside, sure, but hey, it won't hit Trump, because God. Anyway, he goes on to say, be prepared on October 7th to lose power, water, 9/11 services, road access, ports, refineries, and other possible targets. I'll cover this more in an upcoming podcast. The enemy is inside the wire. Just more xenophobia to target the right-wingers. If you're on the left, those are just working age males coming here to do work. Okay, continuing here. Jennifer Reeves says, Hulk Hogan did a few local appearances today. Some of my friends went to meet him. I would have asked him if he could describe blading. Maybe he shouldn't. I don't know if I would ask him. Isn't he like 6'8" and 300 pounds? Like, hey, how do you fake like you're actually getting hurt? A Newful says, the only reason humans have the most painful birth is because our brains grow too much, and our babies are the most dependent because they have to go out before being fully developed. True. Garrett Summers says, go to the 816 mark. Okay, what am I putting on the screen? If you want to give me a blurb. We're looking at a video here. Okay, Back to the Future predicts 9/11. Let's go to the 816 mark. Oh, Back to the Future is rich. It is so thick with predictive programming. And a lot of the 88 stuff ties into this movie. And 88 is consistently attached to the Twin Tower stuff. You have the heroes on floor 88, the 88 lights. What does that all mean? It corresponds to a few things. The orbit of Mercury, number of constellations, piano keys. Not sure what the connection is, but let me play this clip.
More human minds on planet Earth observed 9/11 than any single event in human history, making it a massive terrestrial meditation concentrating collective consciousness onto a single space-time focal point, making 9/11 humanity's most potent consciousness-altering stargate. Zemeckis, a precogging conduit, channels the 9/11 archetype with his Tower Strike Twin Pines terror attack cinematic superimposition, both scenes featuring the transdimensional portal, pointing to 9/11 as the archetype of transcendence. The consciousness portal is opened by touching the 2001 monolith, the movie screen, as touching the two-dimensional screen dispels its three-dimensional guise, revealing how the images it portrayed were not actually real.
One of those that use so many names that...
This is deep. This is really good. This is Gord McLeod, predictive programming, only 41 views in 2 years. What does this say? This is why I'm so adamant about diverging and separating from the mainstream alternative media, is because we're outnumbered by people who don't get this or care about it or see it as relevant. They're more interested in theatrical blood and the tears of crisis actors than the meta-scripted news-bent reality. Garrett says, when there's no views, you know it's good. 100%. That's what censorship looks like. And it's not real censorship. It's the byproduct of apathy and misdirection. Okay, so it's Joe Alexander, and it's his most popular sync vid. Okay, good. Now, I don't always agree with their conclusions, but their info's always great. But the synchromystics go too far. They generally tend to think that this couldn't be the result of a human hand. So they assume the divine authorship of media, the divine fallacy, and they fail to recognize that it's the deliberate and intentional alignment of the big screen movie world with the news world. And the confusion, the conflation of the two is deliberate. This is what I mean by the sun and the moon, the eclipse, the corona. They have taken the two sides, the real and the fake, and they've merged them. And as long as you're participating in a movie augmented reality, yeah, it can be said you have stepped through the monolith, through the screen. That's why I say that this is an off-world stage perspective, and if you're not here, you're on the wrong side of the screen. You're still in their dumb movie. I mean, it's not dumb, it's great, it's entertaining, but you know what I mean. Okay, let's go ahead and play a few more seconds of it.
that you forget your own.
To touch the monolith is to be freed from the fabricated narrative portrayed on the screen or by film, finally seeing the illusion employed to paint audience perspective into a box. The screen as the 2001 monolith is present on Ground Zero in the form of the Millennium Hilton Hotel, which was intentionally built to mimic the 2001 monolith, the movie screen.
That's a big clue there. Predictive programming and architecture. And the movie came out 1968. The towers began their construction 1968. 33 years later, 9/11 happens. And The Shining, as I mentioned, has allusions to 9/11 all throughout it. And they're subtle. You have to give a great deal of... There's a lot of credit due to Chartword. I hope they didn't take his site down. Luckily, I've salvaged all of this in my own archives. It looks like his site might be down. That's too bad. Wow. Huh. Down. Okay, no big deal. I'll have to go back and archive that stuff because he was showing the scene where Danny is on his tricycle and he's flying by the twins, and then you see the twins on the ground all chopped up next to a tipped over chair and an axe, a fireman's axe, like the fire department. And he compared the scene to Ground Zero. Then he shows another room where Danny's throwing darts symbolic of airplanes. And the twins are next to a phone booth inside the house that says Bell. Well, the Twin Towers were adjacent to a Bell Tower. And so he's throwing the darts and it's passing in front of the twins. It's all encoded throughout the movie. 2001: A Space Odyssey has a pretty good example of what Ground Zero would have looked like 33 years before. Someone said the volume is low. Let me go ahead and check on that because I switched mics just yesterday, and if I need to raise the volume, I can do that now. Synchromorphia says the original title is Back to the Future. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and block this person. No offense, but I've had this troll, a sound gremlin, who would come in and tell us, yeah, your mic's screwed up, go to your old one. And I would, and apparently the old one was terrible. Okay, well, the thing about it with these 9/11 decode videos is that the information is great and most of the information is right on target. But I don't think when most of these came out, the full picture wasn't there. And we're arriving at a much clearer picture today of what all this really means. And once you take for granted that there is a human hand behind all of it, it makes more sense. If you remain baffled by the possibility it was done by a demiurge or a god or a higher entity or computer, you're going to remain befuddled, bedazzled. Your mind will be blown and you'll lean towards simulation theory. Everything's fake. No, half of it's fake. Your concept of the world has been tampered with, but the world itself is still real. And who benefits from you not believing in it anymore? Who benefits from you discarding the meatverse in favor of more metaverse? I think the answer is pretty obvious. The phone number's on the screen. I could open up Discord. I haven't tested it, so I don't know, because sometimes you open up Discord and it's kind of a resource hog. Okay, let's continue down the list of posts. So again, October 7th, there's going to be a jihad in America, according to the Health Ranger. Now, I'm going to message him on October the 8th, and I'm going to ask him about his sources. Controlled demolition on the fringe right. Yeah, there's something going on. Just really quick here. Telegram, co-founder, chief executive, arrested. Elon Musk, the European Commission is investigating whether X breached rules designed to limit illegal content and disinformation. Andrew Tate, a court in Romania's capital has placed him and his brother under house arrest for a month, and they're being brought back in. They might have to stay in jail. Nick Fuentes has the Groyper versus Trump thing going on. Groypers are the frog meme America First group. So America First is kind of falling apart, in my opinion. And it's also being connected with rumors of political violence. Then you have Rumble is falling apart, being sued. Apparently it's a big scam. And I always thought so. Rumble has always struck me as scammy. And I paid for them once, and then I canceled. And yet, and I sent them multiple emails. At least once a month, Rumble tries to bill me. They never get me. I turn my cards off, but they're always trying to e-grabble me after I complained. And considering how many times they've been sued recently, I've thought maybe I should just sue these guys. Alex Jones sued for $1 gazillion. Candace Owens jumping the shark repeatedly, who's being attacked by Nick Fuentes and Milo Yiannopoulos, and now she's being attacked by Owen Benjamin. So she's been attacked by other right-wing influencers, and Owen Benjamin is being attacked by a cult of haters on Reddit, 6,000 people strong, who have somehow managed to organize a class action lawsuit against him. a class action lawsuit against him for something they donated for and their expectations weren't met. Like, I don't know if it has any weight, but what you're seeing here are character assassinations and attempts to destroy people. And these are all far right figureheads, influencers. And it's all happening right now as we close in on the next election. So I'm wondering, maybe they're trying to break these things apart now before the big loss in November. Take away their strength now so that they're already sort of scattering before the big disappointment. That's kind of my take. And I think the anger, the rage at losing is also being cultivated. And this is, again, why I think we're being inundated with the monkey, the rage virus symbolism. Etheric Bliss says, definitely a smear campaign with all of it, though. All camp lines are being blurred. Yeah, the guy from Telegram in the news, lots of hand signs. I think I saw him on Drudge. Apparently, he has like 100 kids. And then I've seen this other website, or this article. I think they called Telegram on Bloomberg Terrorgram. Terrorgram terrorists trashing transformers. So these guys are attacking the power grid. So here's your blackout stuff. And I've been talking about the blackout stuff for a while. Specifically with the Turner Diaries. I could bring up one of my mind maps here where I show the number 42 and its correlation in the bigger theme here, the bigger picture with blackouts and specifically with the Turner Diaries and the right-wing domestic violent extremist presence, which is all obviously not instigated. Keep in mind, the feds aren't instigating idiots to do terrorism. That's the Alex Jones level of interpretation. We're better than that. Like, for example, Patriot Front, you can just assume they're all feds. They're all actors. There's nothing organic about any of it. So here's the number 42 mind map. And in 2020, we saw the return of the Turner Diaries. And we had the McCloskeys coming out, waving their guns at the BLM marchers in their neighborhood. And they looked like they were right off the cover of the Turner Diaries. So we're looking at this as sort of like reintroducing it. They came out again in support of Kyle Rittenhouse. The theme here, of course, is the couple on the cover, Turner Diaries. It's like this race war fantasy book written by a guy who was born on 9/11, 1933. It inspired McVeigh to blow up the building in Oklahoma City on the anniversary of Waco. And it's also the reason why Charlie Kirk entitled his speaking group, his conservative action group, he goes on tour with his political action committee. It's called Turning Point USA. Well, Turning Point is a reference to the Turner Diaries. The turning point is when the government comes to take the guns. And remember, McVeigh, who was executed on 6/11/01 at 33, was inspired by or motivated by the death of the Branch Davidian cult, the leader, Dave Koresh, 33, when he was incinerated. That's why he blew up the building on 4/19. It was an anniversary date, the date of Waco. But the connection here, the government went in there, the ATF went in there to take the guns. So the take the guns narrative was really introduced then at Waco. And they went in because they had 1.6 million rounds. 1.6, number sound familiar? Alex Jones was motivated by Waco to become Alex Jones. And if you recall, he was at 1.6. But the 1.6 code goes back this far. And it all connects to the Turner Diaries. And so in 2020, on the 42nd anniversary of the Turner Diaries, it came back to life with the McCloskeys. So we've been talking about it since then. And the number 42's connection with the blackouts. We've covered this at length. Catching up on your comments. Yeah, Terrorgram and then Discord. Now, this makes sense too. When I first got onto Discord, a few people mentioned it. Like, oh, this is like, why are they calling it Discord? Is it, because it almost sounds scary to people who aren't really internet savvy, and it's like perfectly designed to look this way. Now you have these shooters. Oh, they got radicalized on Discord. Right-wing shooters are inspired by Discord. Left-wing shooters are inspired by Reddit. That's how it works. Although you could consider X to be right-wing now for the purposes of inspiring violent action, and that's Disease X. That's the big one. Dinah South said, did you see Trump's new NFT cards? He's grifting again. Okay, let's see. NFT's card grift is back and scammy as ever. I like the first ones where they put Trump's head on superheroes and cowboys and firemen and cops and anybody in a uniform. And it turns out that this was like a Walmart catalog. And they just put Trump's head on everything. Okay, these cards show me dancing and holding some bitcoins. Okay, interesting. We'll look back into this later. Sad. And there are people who are selling Trump shot glasses, which make no sense. He doesn't drink. Trump shot glasses with bullets in them. And that's a new version because of 713, not the old version, the Trump 45 shot glasses with the bullet in it, which never made sense unless you understand predictive programming, in which context it makes perfect sense. Lex Friedman, who recently interviewed Elon Musk, is doing a podcast with Donald Trump soon. And he's looking for suggestions, questions, topic suggestions. I said, ask him if he used a blood capsule or a razor blade for the special effects on 713. What do you all think? Blood capsule or razor blade? Kevin Mooring says, when is JD being replaced with RFK? Oh, it's much deeper than that. So JD Vance is going to get replaced by RFK Jr., who's going to rip off that hideous mask, and beneath it's going to be JFK Jr., if you can believe it. And last year the story was Donald Trump was going to rip off his mask, and he's JFK Sr. So they kind of vacillate between worshiping JFK, JFK Jr., Donald Trump, Vincent Fuchsia, and sometimes they throw Jesus into the mix, though I can't recall the last time I heard any QAnoner talk about Jesus. They don't. I wonder why. What possesses them? Is it because they're so enthralled? They're caught in some kind of maniacal, totally imaginary fan fiction tryst with this figurehead? Are they so immersed in the cult of Trump's personality that they left their real God behind and they've adopted this idol? That's what it looks like. We've received 100 messages so far. Appreciate all the chatters. We have 53 in the main room, 96 on Twitter, many others scattered about. I may reinstate text alerts here soon as well. Likely at the start of October. Next month is big for this channel. And I want to say thanks to all of you who have joined Patreon or purchased books or anything that has kept us going, because I think we've crossed some major obstacles. And next month we're doing the Auto Hoax Con, and I'm already in the process of creating content with other people who can't make it that day, but who should be represented at this particular online conference slash, you could say, almost like a book reading or discussion, debate, Q&A. We're going to cover a lot of ground, but that's going to be at the end of the month. And hopefully that will accomplish what it's meant to do. And what it's meant to do is make clear that we are firm in our stance. We're not 1 foot on the matrix, 1 foot not. We're not still chasing second shooters around the water tower. There are still people doing that. We're not falling under some spell that God saved Trump, but didn't give a damn about the firemen. Like, that makes no sense. And we're cutting ties with a lot of the Q and nonsense, the Quniverse. And the Quniverse is about to reach this critical juncture. I mean, what's going to happen when a doomsday cult and its prophecies are all meant to come true and they don't, and then the figurehead disappears. What happens next? Like, what's going to happen? Nobody can fill Trump's shoes. And RFK Jr., the guy who saws the heads off of dead whales and eats bears that he finds on the side of the road. Okay, speaking of Trump worship, I have a clip here. Trump worshippers in India, and they have a temple. Trump's #1 fan. I'll go ahead and play this clip. Sorry for the music there. So there, it doesn't. It's not the. It looks more Biff Tannen than Trump. Kind of like white here, but this is a Donald Trump sanctuary, and they have everything you would expect of a deity: the regalia, the beads. I think they're dropping holy substances on him, praying to him, and the gathering here is praying to him in response to the assassination attempt. Like, this is a level of deceived that even the QAnoners haven't quite achieved yet. I mean, they're getting there. I mean, some of them have, I'm sure. In fact, there was a Trumper who got pulled over by the police, and he prayed. Do you remember the Donald Trump prayer? This Trump supporter was praying to Donald Trump because he got pulled over by the cops. So this religiosity, it's kind of a weakness, I think. It's a weakness that's being exploited. That the power elite know how to terrorize the masses with pageantry and fear of God and superstition. So this is dark age mind control technology. I mean, they've mastered this stuff. I'll see if I can find that clip. Donald Trump supporter praise. And I think the cops broke his window and pulled him out. Here it is. MAGA moron prays for Donald Trump to save him from the police. It's a long video. I'm just going to play a few seconds of it.
Hear us, please, Donald Trump. Please save me. Please save me, Donald Trump. Please. I'm asking you. Please save me. Please save me. Please get these people away from me. In dear God's name, please stop these people.
Okay, that's pitiful. I've never been a fan of religion. I think religion is cruel, and this is false hope. And I don't even think that it did him any good here. That he still got dragged out, and Trump didn't pay for his ticket. Okay, moving on. Tulsi Gabbard endorsed Trump, and someone sent me this picture of her. She's doing the Jay-Z hand sign, and she's dressed up like the Joker. Looks like a Gotham villain. Interesting character. I don't know what that means. I kind of do, actually. I came across this. You know, Jay-Z's always doing the all-seeing eye with the hands. And I found it in a book on witchcraft, and it was called The Triangle of Manifestation. And I think the way it works is they put it up to their third eye and visualize something. There's actually a spell being cast here is what I'm suggesting. She's casting a spell. Okay, let's continue. Just scrolling through my notes. UK riots, child 11 years old arrested over the Middlesbrough disorder. The 11-year-old is thought to be the youngest person arrested over the nationwide disorder that followed the Southport stabbings. Cleveland police said they have arrested 110 people in Hartlepool and Middlesbrough earlier this month. So the story, the headline here is from, here we go, UK riots, child 11 arrested, 110 so far. You have a burning car, which could just be a prop. But basically what's going on here is that a lot of people are being charged with the disorder in the cities across the UK. And people who tweeted about it or recommended that you go burn a hotel or something, they'd get arrested. So there's a lot of people being arrested. And I don't know yet. I have to get more information because you do have free speech, but you don't have protections from the consequences of your free speech all the time. But if they're going to arrest people for disinformation on something like this, nobody's going to disagree. But they get you to accept the premise. Well, we have to start blocking Twitter because look at what has happened. The mind virus, the rage virus, caused this destruction. This is exactly what I said Disease X was. And the fact they are arresting people over it kind of underscores this point. The only thing I would add to this is arrest all of the chemtrail spammers. There are so many of these chemtrail spammers on Twitter, cloud shouters, skyphobes. Arrest them. I actually wouldn't complain. You know, when they came for the cloud shouters, I did nothing. Like in the future, I'll probably look back at this as like, I should have said something. I didn't speak up when they arrested the people calling for riots. I didn't speak up when they arrested the chemtrailers and they came for the auto hoaxers. Vicky Verma on X says, I walked into a photo lab, which was the NASA lab across the hallway. I had a secret clearance. It wasn't that high, but I was able to go into restricted areas. I knew someone who was in quarantine with the Apollo astronauts. So this is Miss Donna Hare, a NASA employee. And she says, quote, I knew someone in quarantine with the Apollo astronauts. He told me that the astronauts saw crap on the moon. Now, by crap on the moon, they're referring to alien cities, remains of incredibly advanced machinery on the moon, and technologies that can manipulate gravity. I'll go ahead and play this clip. And then we have others as well. Dr. Ken Johnson, Apollo missions. He claims that the astronauts discovered ancient alien cities. And again, more of the stuff about machinery. So I have a theory about this stuff. This is what I call fake. So we talk about how 400,000 people were involved in Apollo 11, so it couldn't be a hoax. That's a line of reasoning you often hear. But if you think about it, they're not accounting for compartmentalization. Obviously, not everybody would have to know everything. But at a certain point, you have what I call the capstone level of awareness. The capstone floating just above the pyramid. The people in the pyramid are compartmentalized in their bricks at different levels. But in the capstone, they have the big picture. They can see the entire edifice in one glance. And the people high up in NASA, not quite at the peak level, would have to be told some kind of bullshit story. Like, yeah, there's a lot more going on here. We got to hush it up, but it's because of this. And then they show them some photos that Stanley Kubrick doctored up, where it looks like moon bases. Their evidence for any of the stuff is leaked docs, photos. That's not evidence. They've been fooled. That's kind of what I'm saying. They kind of made fun of this concept, I think, in Fly Me to the Moon, where they're trying to sell the Department of Defense on the moon landing itself. Like, this is why we should do it. And they show these government workers, these DOD employees, these graphics they created of a communist moon base shooting lasers at the Earth. And it's obviously drawn with colored pencil. But these government workers, these government employees who are like essentially acquiring or trying to they're trying to sell them on the moon landing. They're saying, is this real? Are these real photos? And she has to tell them, no, these are artistic renderings of what it could look like in the future. And he's like, these are future photos then. Like, in other words, it was just making this point that even the people who are heavily involved deep in these organizations could be completely in the dark, completely manipulatable. They don't know real from fake. And they were kind of making fun of that, I think, because if you have someone like this convinced of aliens because some photos shown to him behind closed doors, you can see how that would kind of trickle down. Many examples. Here's another one. Former NASA astronaut Brian O'Leary said, and he died shortly after, this is in 2011, there's evidence we've been contacted by aliens These visitors use consciousness influencing technologies, magnetic discs. Anyway, more new age sewage that they put out there in order to hide the fakery. So I call it fake. Because if you're talking about moon bases and alien technology on the moon, you're taking for granted that they landed on the moon. So it's a kind of a trick. This is where they get conspiracy theorists. Conspiracy theorists say something's fishy with NASA. And instead of saying it's all fake, they say, oh, it's the aliens. It's the secret space program. And if you fall for the secret space program notions, then you've been misdirected away from noticing that the real secret about the space program is that it's fake and that it's the mythology of the Church of Nasatology. It's a religious paradigm. They're not going to send you to Mars. Sorry. Although if they start selling tickets to Mars, I'm not going to disabuse anybody. But yeah, please, if you believe in Mars and you want space communism, by all means, go. You're probably going to end up hyperlooping to some subterranean simulated Mars base below China, and you'll farm potatoes as some kind of a space pioneer / slave in a slave colony, but you wouldn't know it. Okay, Russia has delivered a warning to the West by amending its nuclear doctrine to allow for a first strike. This move comes as Russia accuses Western powers of plotting to use Ukraine as a staging ground to eliminate Russians, destabilize Putin's regime, and ultimately seize Russia's vast natural resources. That was posted by Shadow of Erza, major QAnon boofer, not trustworthy. Slickrick says, was Orange Man arrested this week? I think they're trying to. They're indicting him again. And then Andrew Tate gets arrested. And everything I've read makes me think that he should be investigated. I don't know how much of this is real or fake, but he is selling courses for groomers to be. Terrible people. We talked about his father earlier, and I'm not going to talk about it today because our stream got shut down, about how he's from the CIA and his father said nothing on the news is real. It's all meant to keep people in the dark. Okay, continuing, joined by Phil LeBlanc, Dwayne Garrett, Echo Charlie tried to call. Okay, phones are on again. If you want to make another attempt at it. Again, I'm catching up on your comments. Someone had said, will the entire conference be recorded and made available? Yes. The entire thing's going to be recorded both as a Zoom conference, but I'm also going to have a cinematographer there. We're recording parts of it to be used in an upcoming documentary called The Auto Hoaxer. And the phones are on. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey.
Hey, thank you for calling back.
Yeah.
We have a little bit of an echo back there, Echo Charlie, if you want to mute your speaker.
Okay, let me turn down the radio.
Little nominative determinism. Okay. Yes, I'm taking calls.
Is it better?
Yeah, we're loud and clear. So what has piqued your interest tonight?
Well, that call or that show you did that dropped, you were talking about the shutting down the far right.
Yes.
And I didn't know if you had been following the Southport thing over there. And because I had gotten an email today, and it had the word rage in it. So it's like the whole, like people are thinking along the same lines that you are. But, of course, some come from different emphasis. This guy I follow, he's in like the exit and build community, and they were doing a big conference in the UK, taking it over there from Texas, and then this thing happened. So now it's like people are canceling. They're not going to want to go over there or something because of all the rioting.
You know, I just did a
So I was going to share that with you.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
I just did a quick search. I put Southport and rage, And there are so
Yeah.
many headlines here where it says right wing rage. And this is totally online with what we were expecting based on all of the predictive programming, especially recently.
Right, with the monkey virus or whatever, and the monkey pox, which now we have to call mpox. Gotcha.
Yeah, exactly, the mpox. And why do we have to call it mpox? Is it I didn't catch that, but the monkey part of it, I think, kind of like the bat, has some symbolic significance here, and I think it has to do with the rage virus concept.
Yeah. Well, I think they're always changing things because of the political correct. Like somebody gets offended or who knows? You can't call any virus a regional. Like if it started in a place, we used to call it by that place, and people were like, well, now people might be upset with people from that country just because we called it the Spanish flu or whatever. Just ridiculous.
Yeah, I was just worried that it was like speciesist. Like, is that what we're getting at now, where you can't even?
Something like that. Yeah.
Oh, Planet of the Apes. Planet of the Apes is out, the new one. So, it's the zeitgeist. Look at the zeitgeist. If the big picture, if you were an alien anthropologist, you would say all of these beings are somehow honoring and worshiping this monkey god archetype in various ways. Some of them are doing it in a video game simulation. Some are venerating a statue, and others are watching it in their big screen churches in the movie theaters.
Yes. And the pluralism in this country, with the big monkey god from the Hindu deities, coming up in Houston, like it's all it's all right there in the narrative. The other thing that piqued my interest was you were talking about this astronaut training program and the aliens. Did you see where Don Pettit's going to be going up to the ISS next month?
Oh no, that's good to hear. I suppose he's gonna meet up with the stranded astronauts.
He is. I guess he's supposed to fly up September 11th with SpaceX, I think, or Soyuz, one of them. He's hitching a ride.
And you said it's on September the 11th. Okay, good to know, because there's a story coming up right now, and the fact that they would have a 9/11 date is ominous, considering everything else with the stranded craft. Okay, I just found it.
Did you?
I found the article about it. I'm gonna do some digging on this Don Petit going to the space station.
Before you do that, can I read you this letter, because it's more of a I just think it would add something to your show.
Please do.
Okay. I got this in an email today. I know the UK is a scary place right now. A 17-year-old UK-born young man with parents from Rwanda killed 3 girls in a knife attack. Absolutely horrible. It kicked off a slew of hardcore, violent protests. At one point, rioters tried to torch a Holiday Inn Express housing asylum seekers. Everyone is on edge, and I totally get it. I'm all for peace and harmony, of course. I don't even think we should have these nation states that give people these false identities. I believe we're all a part of the same human family. Next paragraph. But culture matters, and culture differs wildly. Cultures often clash when they're forced to integrate together. And when you see a crime this heinous committed against children, it can make people's blood boil over and fall into extreme mob mentality. But I also believe there is a conspiracy at play to sow division and create more chaos to usher in a worse totalitarian technocratic state, with the ultimate goal of doing away with national and cultural identities. I can see why people are pissed off and feel like their countries are being invaded. Here's the rage word. But rage-fueled riots aren't the answer. I believe there is a better way. We have to rise above the violence, the headlines, and the fear-mongering so that we can attack the root of the problem. Our reliance on the parasite class is what allows them to create this discord in society. They want us to be out of control, violent, and angry. But I think a stronger, braver response is to double down on our plans to opt out of their systems altogether. And then it goes on. This is why I'm excited about my event. So it's a like homesteader type people.
Right. Yeah, I can see that. And many of them are obviously operating from the premise that these things really happened. But I do think there is an agenda here to get people to embrace the alien. And I often talk about how it's not a coincidence that illegal aliens or immigrants and extraterrestrials are both feared by the right wing. The right wing sees aliens as demonic, and then aliens have been worshipped by the left for the longest time as the angels in the new paradigm, and then they're also open borders. So I think the left-right split and their attitude towards aliens, both illegal and extraterrestrials, tells you quite a lot. Because what happens if you have an alien invasion everywhere? You have no more nation state. Everything's blended together, and what happens is the grays are invading. The grays represent, I think, the synthesis between the black and the white. You know, the duality they're always playing on, the left and the right, when they merge the two. When the aliens have fully saturated and invaded and there's only one world, then you could say that they have achieved this synthesis. And that's why I think aliens are called grays, because it is the big agenda. But it's not aliens from Mars. I think it's sifting everybody around.
Yeah, I mean, this content creator that sent me the email, for him to say, I don't believe in nations are just another form to divide us, humanity. And yet I also feel very like America first. Like I have instinctual, America first, go back to the old ways. So it's just a lot to think about that, we can be fooled in so many different ways.
That's the dialectic. They're trying to pit traditional, you could even say idealistic past versus progressive utopian future. And there's no middle ground. It's one or the other. And I think they're sacrificing the traditional in favor of the progressive. And we're witnessing it. And I actually think that the Q movement is largely a construct to basically put them all in one box and then get everyone to agree this needs to go. The remnants of this. And Musk is included with this. They're trying to get rid of the adherence to this idealized past and, of course, move towards the progressive. I think that's the direction it's going.
And yet a homestead way of life is a past way of life. That's what it's like we're trying to recapture some sort of liberty and full responsibility, such as Owen Benjamin. You talked about Owen. So,
and he's being sued right now. You realize he's under attack. 6,000 Redditors, and they've organized a class action lawsuit to take down his attempt at starting this off-the-grid community. It's kind of interesting to see this happening. I'm like, well, either he's an agent and he's part of a takedown of this, or he's legitimately doing it and it's being taken down because it won't be tolerated by the system. But in my opinion, it's futile. You cannot go off the grid if you're not mentally off the grid. If you're not a media skeptic, if you're not an auto hoaxer at this point, you can run as far as you want to go, but you're still under their control. But we'll see where this ends up. I appreciate the call very much.
Thank you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you, Echo Charlie. Yeah, resistance is futile. And I understand America and all that. However, America is a hoax. I hate to say it. Does that sound unpatriotic? Because if you think about it, there's only one government, and it's not ours. We don't even know who runs it. And this one government has filtered the perceptions of every single human being on Earth. Infinite Plane Radio.
Hey, family. This is Brandon Biggs.
Oh, good to hear from you.
This is the prophet that
Yeah.
predicted Trump's earshot.
My favorite thing about your prediction, or Brandon Biggs' prediction, he said, there were big snow-capped mountains behind Trump when it happened. I'm sorry, but The tallest mountain in Butler, Pennsylvania is like 105 feet. It's a hill. There's no mountains there.
Wait a minute. Is this Infinite Penis Society?
Okay, I don't know who this is exactly. I
Because I thought I was calling Infinite Penis.
okay, I don't know if the caller's drunk or if that was really that prophet, Brandon Biggs. Anybody? Yeah, caller, your number's not blocked, but go ahead.
Dude, I was joking. I was trying to pretend I was Brandon Biggs.
Okay, I thought you were Brandon Biggs for a minute. Anyway,
No.
I was checking to see you weren't. Brandon Biggs, for people who don't know, is one of the most obviously he's one of the most scammiest false prophets on the internet, and it's a total grift. Apparently, he deletes his old videos that don't correspond to his predictions. Like he's always shuffling it around.
Yeah, the guy is full of crap, that Porky Pig prophet. Okay? And he makes a million different predictions. I just make fun of him all the time because he speaks in tongues. You know, he does the shamalama ding dong, Kim Jong Un crap, whatever. Yeah, he's just talking out of his, you know.
Okay, this guy, he has claimed, and I watched a whole documentary on him. He has claimed that God has personally sat down and spoken with him 9 times. And that in one of these conversations he recounted, and he tries to hide these videos, Jesus told him that the UFOs are coming and that they were going to be fake, but that humans were going to be piloting them, but that they were going to take away a lot of people. So this guy has always been grifting, and he just happened to state the obvious and went viral. But no, this guy's not a real prophet, obviously.
This guy is the dumb version of Jonathan Kleck. See, Jonathan Kleck is a hellbound heathen also, but the difference between him and Jonathan Kleck, at least Jonathan Kleck has some interesting stuff once in a while, but this guy's like the dumb version of Kleck. I don't know if you've ever seen Kleck, you know, because he looks kind of like him because he wears a bandana. This guy, if Kleck took off his bandana and gained some weight, he'd look kind of like Brandon Biggs.
I happen to think that characters like Brandon Biggs and some of these Gematria calculator sharpshooters are disinformation. And they may not know the full extent of it. But I think they're disinformation agents. There's got to be more than just money.
Well, that's what, listen, I keep telling people, but they don't listen. They have no foundation. It's like, you know, it's like the person who calls up and tells you that they had a dream that something is going to happen in Los Angeles, right? I'm like, but wait a minute. You know that every day somebody has a dream that something's going to happen in Los Angeles. So should I listen to you? Or do you have some type of proof? Where is your foundation? You know, do you have 5,000 videos like I have showing you the evidence of this, you know, my predictions? Like what I'm trying to say is these guys, you know, when they make a prediction, they're just connecting it to one thing. Like I'll give you an example. Now that this monkey thing has come out, they're connecting a few monkey things that have come out. I understand that a few monkey things came out. I get it, but it's not because so much that they think that there's going to be this X thing, you know, this pox thing.
Right.
But it's more of they're mocking us because they tell us that we come from monkeys. I hope you don't believe that we come from monkeys, Tim.
No, that's actually, I said earlier, it's a slander. To say that we're just monkeys with big egos trying to make sense of things, nothing means anything, the universe is dead. That is a straight up, it's a deliberate misunderstanding, and I think they want us to think that it's designed that way. But no, I don't agree with that notion. And
okay, all right, at least you believe that much. Yeah.
Now, how do you make sense of this monkey? Because I've been talking about it because there's too much to ignore. But what I have noted, the common denominator here, is that monkeys have been associated with rage, and the rage virus with disease X. So there is this theme with this monkey thing rolling out, no doubt. And one more point here really quick. You have not only made your stated predictions, but you have consistently predicted what would be more predictive programming. It's beyond, this isn't cherry picking. This isn't something you could have made up. the alignments, the dates, the correspondences have revealed themselves to be internally consistent time and again. And then we look back, and there's more you can add on to it. That's what's so mind-blowing. Trackdown, 1958, has the Trump guy getting arrested. In 2016, when we first noticed that movie, nobody would have known Trump was about to be arrested. So we're kind of like on the same page here as far as we're not the same as these people making random predictions who are anonymous, by the way. They're always anonymous or unaccountable.
And they use 20 different ciphers. You can't do that. You can't use 20 different ciphers to prove your point. That's not, for the people who don't understand gematria, you don't know what I'm talking about. But for anyone who knows how the numbers work, you cannot do that because there's over 100 million word combinations that will equal the same thing if you use 20 different ciphers.
Yeah, it would be like having 5 spellings for any word, and then you do a spelling bee. Like, you can't be wrong. Like, no, you have to settle on a filter or a single lens, and you have to explain what your stated predictions are and your basis for it. But I see a lot of people who are just basically firing a bunch of shots, and they're finding things that conveniently line up, but they're not ever accountable for where they're wrong.
Well, can I tell you why I called? Because I heard you talking about something that happened in Middlesbrough.
Yeah, the stabbings. We were talking about the stabbings and somebody getting arrested there for tweeting about the riots.
Was there a big protest? Because somebody left a comment, and I looked at an image. Let me just tell you something. Something about, check this out. There was some kind of like 20, 30 people got arrested in Middlesbrough.
Yeah,
at some protest.
Yes, it was 110 people so far between Hartlepool and Middlesbrough. And in Middlesbrough, an 11-year-old child was arrested for his tweets.
Did you see what date it was?
Let me check the date. Why?
It was, I believe it was August 4th, that protest.
Oh, yeah, I did see that. They erupted on August 4th. And I said, okay, that's interesting. August 4th.
Yeah, but do you want to hear something crazy, the connection? Because, I'm telling everyone that Trump's going to get his head wound in Ohio. And Ohio's the 216 area code, and August 4th is the 216th day of the year, right?
I bet you're going to mention the Cleveland connection.
Right. That's it. Cleveland is the 216 area code in Ohio. That's what I meant. And their police department and fire department's called Cleveland over there in Middlesbrough.
Okay, so you have your 216 Cleveland, Ohio connection brought up on 8/4 in these riots with the Cleveland Middlesbrough. I saw that a little while ago, and yeah, that is interesting in itself. And this has been consistently the case with these dates.
And I think there's a Middlesbrough in Ohio. I'm not sure, but I didn't look it up. Let me.
Okay, let's take a look here.
Middlesbrough, Ohio area code.
I do see Middlesburg, which is kind of the same thing.
No, Middleburg. Yeah, you're right. I don't see a Middlesbrough, no.
But regardless, the Cleveland
connection, there is a
Trump. And the Cleveland connection ultimately ties in to a few themes here. And I've seen this theme represented in Stranger Things with the ground breaking open, the land being cloven, the hell fire being released. But the Cleveland, you've connected it to the significance of the west coast of Washington looking like the profile of Elvis, and the head wound area would indicate some kind of a fault line.
Yeah. I don't know if you saw, I know you probably didn't watch it because it's too long of a video for you to watch on my channel, but I have a live stream up, not the one with the monkey on it, the one before that, Trump holding a dove. The video gets better as it goes, but at the very end or somewhere, I explained why Trump got his ear clipped on that day. I show all the connections, connecting it to to Elvis and to, you have to see it. I'm not going to be able to explain it here,
I'll
but
have to look.
it's
I
for
will
the
look.
people.
Because what you're talking about is the date 7/13, which we've connected to the two most significant blackouts in Manhattan, 42 years apart, and the date 7/13 has some connections, like the movie How It Ends, which is in Seattle. It's 113 days from 113. There's quite a lot with that number. I was just looking at this, but 7/13, the date. I also have on a mind map a number of conspicuous celebrity 33-year-olds all dying on that day. I found quite a bit, but a lot of it ties into the theme of blackout. Blackout seems to be.
Yeah. Anyway, man, hey, listen. Like I said, there's a lot of things me and you don't agree about, but you do really good work when it comes to putting stuff together. So if I'm saying that, then it means it's a compliment, because I don't compliment people much, on YouTube, even though, like I said, we don't agree on a lot of things. But when you put stuff together and you're putting the pieces together, you do it good. So that's why I agree that there's something going on with this monkey thing and with the Robert De Niro crap. You know what I mean? But so just keep doing what you're doing, bro. I'm gonna let you go because I know you're busy. So.
Okay, well, I appreciate the call, and everyone else does. People actually look forward to your calls here. It's just super informative, and this is just next level information, and it's beyond the point of just.
Wait till they see my reset. Just let me just say this. Wait till you see my reset videos. Then you're gonna understand why they've waited for the next year. You'll see it soon. The reset videos. Anyway, all right, bro. Take care.
Will do. I will check out your latest. Okay, excellent. Thanks for the call. And this is a big deal. This 7/13 thing. Here's another one. Chesley Christ. Now, her name is the Christ is spelled with a K, C-K. She was Miss America, a beauty queen. So you have a crown concept, but the C-K is something like 311. She won the Miss USA crown in 2019. 2019 was the year of the blackout, which was on 42nd Street, put 42K in the dark, and was on the 42nd anniversary of the previous blackout, the one during which the Son of Sam was active. Chesley Christ jumped from the 29th floor of the Orion building. Well, Orion is Osiris. So you have Osiris, crown, the queen, the royalty thing, but she hit the ground at 7:13 a.m. Look at this, 7:13 a.m. and she landed on 42nd Street. So you have 7:13:42, and the blackout connection is interesting here. And I think the connection here is this: Miss USA, Babylon, perhaps, falling, and the darkness connected to 7:13. There's a storyline connected in this. There are other elements I could add to it. Another one being she was in a movie with Colin Kaepernick. And, CK, Chesley Christ, Colin Kaepernick. There's some interesting connections between these two characters. But when this happened, I was decoding this thing, and I was like, okay, here's another 7/13, 42nd Street blackout. And I even wondered if maybe Miss USA falling could be a reference to perhaps the ISS and its fall as the Tower of Babel falls. And she fell from the Orion building. And I didn't know it at the time when I first read this story, but after I learned that Orion is Osiris. So it ties into the rest of this, these bodies of symbols. And there's more to it. For example, the Blackout Bowl, Super Bowl 47, Beyonce was the performer before it went dark, and then you had Colin Kaepernick as the quarterback. So we were looking at this. Well, in 2020, Beyonce released Black is King, and the cover of it has someone falling to the earth. So the theme of falling to earth was a recurring theme this year. But Black is King and falling, as I've said. And this correlated with The Man Who Fell to Earth, the new version, and the actor is black, where previously it was David Bowie. And then you had another connection here. I think it was a Nas X video where he falls from the sky. But this is Mr. Satan, Starman, the man who fell to earth. There's some kind of deepening connection here. And of course, okay, Black is King. I went to go see the Elvis movie. And it begins with a trailer for Black Adam, which has The Rock, who's black, and he has a lightning bolt on his chest, and he falls down to the earth, or he flies down to save everybody. So I'm looking at this reoccurring theme, and after this trailer, it opens up the Elvis movie, where Elvis is a kid, and he's at some kind of revival in a tent, some religious ceremony, and he, like gospel singing, he joins in. And Elvis Young has a big yellow lightning bolt around his neck, looking like Black Adam. So there's a continuous set of symbols that go from the trailers through the movie, but it kept drawing back to this idea of the falling star, a black rock. Like the Black Rock connection also ties in significantly Black Rock cities where they do the Burning Man festivals. But the Black Rock, the monolith, these things are all strongly correlated. Mecca, the idea of a meteor, is what? A star, a light, like Starman, that condenses into matter, that falls to the earth. So it appears to be light, but it's actually a rock. This is called Black Adam, the Rise and Fall of an Empire. Also, note the word empire. EMP, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire. You had the Godzilla versus King Kong, A New Empire. The EMP is what would mark the end of the empire and the beginning of the next one. Megaopolis, which comes out next month, the trailer starts off with how an empire...
We're coming up.
They talk about how an empire, when an empire dies. And you see the Statue of Liberty and the Russian satellite falling to the earth. And one more point. This movie was being made before 9/11. It was delayed because of 9/11. They took out scenes because of it. And I think it's going to contain scenes from post 9/11 New York because they were already recording stuff. So there's some fascinating connections there. But here you have the Statue of Liberty looking like it's the same one from Planet of the Apes, the destroyed one at the beginning of the Paris Olympics. And you have stuff falling from the sky. I would also suggest that Megaopolis is just another way of saying the Tower of Babel. In fact, I have a video on this I'll play next, but just note the use of the term empire, because I think empire is code for EMP.
When does an empire die?
When does an empire die? So I had made these connections between the One World Trade Tower, the Tower of Babel, New York is Babylon, something that you could even find in the Cathedral of St. John the Divine, in which it has New York as Babylon. This is all just part of their world stage script. But someone sent me a video that I haven't had time to watch yet, and it has a breakdown. It's called Megaopolis, Satanic Hollywood's Obsession with Babylon and the Rebirth of the Tower of Babel. So I haven't had a chance to watch it yet, but we're going to take a look at it. And I have this linked on my minds.com/infinite plane society. And it's Plane Society, not what the previous caller said. Okay, Francis Ford Coppola, Megaopolis. And this is by Rebel Call.
Rebel Call channel, welcome to today's show. There is a new movie coming out,
Why does this guy sound like Russian vids?
Megalopolis. That's right, Megalopolis. Not to be confused with the film that most of you already...
Okay, I'm going to scroll through and see what his points are. The movie follows the city of New Rome, an allegory for New York City. Okay, this is depicted... Okay, this is it. The Amazon with the Tower of Babylon. This is something I've already talked about.
Tower of Babel headquarters that they've created. The New World Order is about the rebuilding of the Tower of Babel. Remember, and I'll read it to you now for those of you...
Yeah, let me point this out. Jeff Bezos' building, the Helix building, looks like the Tower of Babel. We've talked about the connection between the One World Trade Tower, 1776 feet high, and the year of the Tower of Babel's construction on the Masonic calendar, Year of Light, 1776 AL. America's founding and the Tower of Babel's founding correspond if you look at these two different calendars. That's why your dollar bill with the mono eye on the back of it, on the top of the pyramid, has 1776 on the bottom. It's about the building of the new Tower of Babel. That's the story here. And interestingly, Jeff Bezos is the builder of this because he is portrayed on the world stage as Nimrod. And Nimrod was the first to build a civilization after the flood. Now, this is their lore, but we're talking about after the flood. Well, what is a flood? It's the reset. You know, like the Noah's Ark. The bunker, the ark is a bunker. The theme here is the slate gets wiped clean. Let me play a few more seconds of this.
Do that might be new to all of this stuff. God is the one responsible for creating and breaking.
Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through most of this. I'll watch the rest of it to see what else is here. It says here, Coppola was asked how afraid he is of the future, especially politicians like former U.S. President Donald Trump, and he emphasized men like Donald Trump are not at the moment in charge, but there's a trend happening in the world towards a neo-right fascist division, which is frightening. Anyone who was alive during World War II saw the horrors that took place, and we don't want a repeat of that. It's the role of artists to shine a light on what's happening. Okay. I'm going to see if there's anything else here. I think there's some Antichrist symbolism. Yes.
Quality, right? Poverty, slavery. But really what it's about is actually building a utopian society of slaves, which is what we would all be underneath this ruling class. So in the trailer, you saw, of course, all-seeing eye symbolism, because that's what this is really about, right? The architect of this, in the they tell you that the plot, the architect is this guy named Caesar. Might as well.
Now, let me connect one more thing here. The monolith, the one stone, the one slate that we're all on, that is the Tower of Babel. The Tower of Babel isn't a physical structure that reaches the heavens. It's the mental structure. It's the paradigm, and we're in it. And the builders of it are the mind control operations in place, the ones who are behind, the architects of the mind control. That's why Bezos is a builder of the Tower of Babel. He's a space faker. Man, one language, united from Earth to the heavens, space being the new heaven. They've built it. It's a construct in your mind. And it's monolithic because everybody shares it. So we already have it. This is the Tower of Babel. The blackouts that have been prophesied in Leave the World Behind and many other movies, it's about what happens when this breaks, when the interconnectedness is scattered, when they have to shut it all down for some reason. There's a reason why Jeff Bezos launched on the 50th anniversary of Apollo 11 and took off at 9:11 a.m., 9 days after Branson launched on the 42nd, is that 42? The 42nd anniversary of Skylab falling. So we're looking at this story unfolding, and they're not installing a one world order. They're not installing the Tower of Babel. We're already in it.
Just say Antichrist, because really there's a lot of themes of the Antichrist as well. But
now the Caesar Antichrist connection easily attaches to Trump. Now, I'm not going to play this entire video. It looks pretty good. Some of these individuals are kind of alarmist, but the info is relevant. I think I have some good comments here regarding The Rock. Let me get to this. And I generally refer to The Rock as the rubber, but I didn't want to confuse anybody because I'm pretty sure it's a rubber bodysuit. Diana South agrees. Michelle Castor says, Beetlejuice is a star in the Orion constellation, and the Beetlejuice movie is coming out soon. Yes, there has to be some significance there because they drew attention to these things at the same time. Nicotrama says, so the Metascript theme of the Fall of the West could be an EMP blast or the simulation of one. You nailed it. Think Westworld. When Westworld collapses, falls apart, you have the Space Needle symbolism. You see it in the eye of the skull on the cover of the advertisement for that season. But the theme is EMP. Everything gets blasted. The Sims are released. The Westworld Matrix breaks. And all the slaves are set free. So that's Westworld. Then you got Game of Thrones. Westeros burns. Red dragons. China. I don't know. But winter is coming. Nuclear winter. You have ashes from burning Westeros mixing with the snow. It looks like fallout. Then you have Stranger Things. Season 4, it ends with the ground breaking open. And I think that too is a reference to perhaps Seattle. But the West, the Westworld, West burning, it's all part of this storyline. And 2022 was a big year for pushing that. That's why that was the year you saw Ye and his family falling apart. and he did his burning house thing. The house, he said, symbolized MLK's house, which represented the West, when MLK said, I'm afraid that we're reintegrating into a burning house. Well, the burning house is the West. And Ye's whole performance art piece with the burning house was a reference to that. So you can kind of see how it's syncing together. There's just so many trails here I could add on to this, but the theme is the West, the Titanic as the West sinking. The movie Don't Look Up, the West is responsible for the Earth getting hit by a comet. Okay, let me catch up on the comments. There was something good here. Oh yes, Jurassic Liar says, don't forget Rock Johnson is obsessed with Elvis. And in the movie The Game Plan, they used Rock Johnson's own memorabilia of Elvis in that movie. Yeah, they all worship him. He dressed as Elvis in front of some armed forces, saying Elvis is in front of them. Yeah, I seem to recall some of this. Now, EMP would be super easy to fake. High altitude blasts wouldn't necessitate a mushroom cloud on the ground, but you would have all your stuff shut down. God was bored says Nimrod was frequently used to mean idiot. Yeah, I never quite understood that, but yeah, Nimrod is the builder of the Tower of Babel, and his whole persona, this character of Bezos, connects to the man who fell to earth, connects to Nimrod, the builder of the Tower of Babel. And it's highly significant that he goes to space on Apollo 11's anniversary, because that represents man stepping in the heavens. That's man's intrusion. You know, God knocks down the Tower of Babel at this point. That's why it's significant that he launched at 9/11, because 9/11 is about the Twin Towers falling, and they replace it with what? The One World Tower, which is 1,776 feet high. 1776, Tower of Babel, one world. You see the symbolism here. So we're seeing in a number of rituals the story being conveyed to us. So the fall of Nimrod is nigh. That's what we're seeing, the fall of the Tower of Babel. It's about to go down. And that to me is the EMP. Again, Ghostbusters, Frozen Empire, or Westworld, Winter is Coming. We have many more examples of this. I mean, you could even tie in Alec Baldwin and the Rust shooting in the chapel and that house and the symbolism there of being involved or shooting an actress from a place from Ukraine, but the place that is mentioned in Hunt for Red October, a movie with Alec Baldwin about a submarine, a nuclear submarine. Echo Charlie says, technocrats will be our overseers in the new neo-feudal reset. I agree, but I want to add on to it that they already are. Now, as far as the tower falling, I don't think it's falling as in the sense that they're going to break anything. I don't think they're going to shut off our programming, but they're going to get the public to be complicit in some vast shutdown censorship operation because of disease X. You know, they made the case. You have to lock down even if you're healthy, especially if you're healthy, because you can spread it to people with weak immune systems. You're healthy, makes you dangerous. Well, you're mentally healthy if you can confront mind viruses and misinformation and not catch it, not act on it. But there are mentally ill people with weak mental immune systems, a society afflicted with mind AIDS. They can't have healthy mind virus super spreaders, asymptomatic, running around, speaking without masks, without masking our minds, unvaxxed brains. So they're going to make the case that we, the non-mentally ill, are a threat to the greater society because the mentally ill are susceptible to the ideas that we traffic in. But the falling is slow motion, and it's all part of the way they write history in broad strokes, the zeitgeist, the symbol of the Titanic sinking, the West sinking, and these things are all interconnected. There's a reason why James Cameron produces the Terminator, 9/11 predictive programming, the Terminator, a reference to Apollyon or Abaddon in the Abyss in Revelation 9/11. Then he puts out Titanic, 1997. Titanic splits in two and sinks like the Twin Towers, complete with jumpers. Then on 9/11/2001, James Cameron is filming a documentary called Ghosts in the Abyss. So there's your Revelation 9/11 reference to the Abyss. And where is he? He's at the sunken Titanic as the Twin Towers have sunken. This is not a coincidence. This is part of an alignment connecting all of these, or these events, and it's like sinking to the bottom of the ocean. Then you have the ground level sinking of the Twin Towers, and I think the next level of it is when the space station sinks. And this is all just emblematic of man's hubris, getting a big reality check. Isabel Ann says voluntary lockdowns in Massachusetts for the EEE virus. You can voluntarily lock down at any time. If you believe in chemtrails, climate change, or monkeypoxes, you should be locked down. And if you believe in space junk, you should be sleeping with a helmet on. Like, a lot of the people who claim to believe in these things are kind of hypocritical. The collapse is snail speed. Is it now? Because if you look at the Tower of Babel, it's not a physical structure, it's a mental structure. And look at the way we have collectively been synchronized and aligned, and how we're being molded. And so we have all been put into this one paradigm, the monolithic paradigm, over these years of being dragged into the movies, from the atomic bomb to the moon landing to 9/11 to now. And now we've been merged with the social media, and now comes the censorship. So what we're seeing here is like the unification of everybody, getting us all on the same sheet, and now they're pruning it, perfecting it. So the idea of the fall of the West means the elimination of certain Western values that are incompatible with globalism. Specifically, anything that produces an excess of pollution, your carbon footprint. You're walking too many steps each day. You're going to have to adopt the ascetic lifestyle of sitting at home and watching Netflix, and replacing your meat-verse experiences with the metaverse experience. But it's a takedown of the West. This is another thing too. There's the white noise connection we've made to Palestine. So East Palestine, Ohio, has a toxic airborne event. Looks like a big black mushroom cloud. 42 miles from where Trump was shot. And this has been described as the most important 42 miles in American politics for some reason, connecting Ohio to Pennsylvania. But that movie, White Noise, that preceded the train derailment in Palestine, which involved extras who were evacuated during the real thing, that movie was sort of a grim remake of these National Lampoon family vacation films, Chevy Chase, where the family packs into a Volkswagen, they drive across the country as a unit, nuclear family intact, and they bond as a family, and they use a lot of gas, and they drive really far. Like, the movie White Noise was basically almost a parody of that, but it was just showing how that's no longer the way things are. You no longer drive across the country. Our effects on the environment are so disastrous that we have to rethink our idea of endless expansion, like manifest destiny. They've made the point, I've heard this made many times, that we can't go into space led by people like Musk with billionaires in charge, because their motivation is money. And they're going to bring out, I guess, the idea of mining asteroids. So they bring down trillions of dollars of wealth from space. That's tremendously disruptive. And the rest of the world doesn't want that. They don't want rich individuals destroying the collective commons, not just of space, but of cyberspace. And who has destroyed the commons of cyberspace more than Elon Musk? And who is responsible for pollution and consumer goods being spread around more than Bezos? Like, these individuals are being pointed at for a reason. In Don't Look Up, which is a remake of the Titanic in some ways, Leonardo DiCaprio is the face of it. It's about the Earth is Titanic, about to be hit by a space iceberg, a comet. But the capitalists, the ones who want to make money off the comet, convince us not to divert the thing. So they're not listening to the scientists. So we're not putting science first. We're putting money first. Greed kills mankind. But the scientist, or the guy who wants to mine the asteroid, just seems like a composite character of a Bezos, possibly a Musk, and maybe even a bit of Steve Jobs kind of mixed into one. But the movie is to give us an idea of what will happen if we continue to let the West guide us. Well, again, the Titanic is a symbol of the West. Hubris, too big to fail, or so we think, and then it gets hit by the asteroid. I'm sorry, the iceberg. So the comet hitting the Earth is a consequence of not looking up, not paying attention to what's coming to hit us, not listening to the scientists. And that's why they had Leonardo DiCaprio as the lead scientist. It's all to synchronize these themes. The sinking of the Titanic, which I've said before, is tied in to the sinking of the Twin Towers, the sinking of the West. So again, Western values condemns us all. We have to get rid of them. That's the message of the space program. One of the biggest stalking horses out there for environmentalism. And when you go into the roots of the space program, it's always been nasotology. It's always been a new concept of heaven. Space travel has always just been allegory. Ted Stryker says, I sleep better with my comfortable space junk helmet. Got it on eBay for $33. I'm still wondering why nobody's wearing masks for the chemtrails. That's one of the biggest examples of hypocrisy. Like, you don't really believe it. Stop telling me to believe it if you don't believe it. If you believe it, prove it. You believe in nukes, because I don't. You think it's silly I don't? Well, let me see you duck and cover. Have you practiced that? A local church group entered the property of the Hanneman Idol in Texas. 15 to 20 protesters were uttering demonic curses. Okay, this is interesting. So you have some protesters and counter-protesters at the 90-foot tall monkey god sculpture.
Father, in the name of Jesus, we just thank you for today. God, I thank you so whenever you place the souls of your sheep, God, it will be given. Until it comes to God, we break up the fellow ground. Yes, we break up fellow ground. Yes, God. Oh, God.
Okay, so you have a group of Christians praying for safety, praying away the big monkey statue, and then you have others there praying or jeering at them. I would stay at least 90 feet away from it. I mean, the only way this monkey god can hurt you is if the statue falls.
Yes, God. Oh, God. Come
on. Now, Matt, again, this is right in the wake of the WHO declaring monkeypox pandemic and the game coming out where 10 million people are just plugged into this monkey god character. There's just too much here. Breaking tire on Boeing 757 explodes during maintenance at Atlanta airport, killing 2 Delta employees. Believable. Hope it's not true. It's terrible. But Boeing, I mean, it just seems like redundant at this point. You just see Boeing in a headline. It's a disaster. Boeing's not going to be trusted to bring the astronauts back home. Interesting comment here. Chemtrails are used to hide UFOs from commercial airline passengers. I've been seeing some stranger and stranger claims. Then you have RFK Jr., who says he's going to do something to stop the trails. We kind of played that. He's just pandering. Obviously, he knows better. Okay, I believe I've gone through most of the notes. We were sort of falling behind. Just wanted to point out that, yeah, there are a lot of people high up in NASA who have been told some kind of fake story, so they don't find out how fake it is, so they're led into fake. Oh, the moon landings are real, but there's moon bases up there. We have to hide that. Like, okay, that's a perfect cover story. Oh, yeah, we had to fake the moon landings to trick the Russians. So many stories that they'll tell you in anything at all to distract you from the idea that the whole thing could be fabricated. And to me, it's really just a matter of Occam's razor with most of these things. But those things are illegal. They've banned Occam's razors, Hitchens razors. Jessica Lynn says Boeing equals Seattle. Oh, yeah, that's right. And there were some digs at Boeing in Fly Me to the Moon in conjunction with conversations about the Apollo 1 disaster. Like, explain to me how a recently released movie is making jokes about Boeing and in the context of space program disasters right now when the Boeing stuff just became a thing in the last few months. This movie had to have been already produced, ready to release a year ago. So there's just like, to me, that this is another clear indication that the movies contain programming that is aligned with what is to come, with what they know is on the way. Boeing's rescue by rival SpaceX is, quote, embarrassing. Yeah, apparently they don't like SpaceX. And the astronauts who travel to the ISS are not going to be coming down on a Boeing. I believe we've covered most of the notes. There's just so much more going on, but we'll continue this tomorrow. I want to say thanks to the callers and all of the comments. And we were live earlier today. I'm not sure what happened. Whatever we were saying, whatever we were talking about triggered something, and they shut us down. One thing that's new, the 24/7 is back on, and I'm in the process of updating it. So if you want to chat anytime 24/7, you can just show up here on any of these live streams. The main YouTube channel will turn off for its own protection, because who knows what's in the archives. But the backup YouTube channel will be on, and I'll put links below. And I'll basically leave this thing playing 24/7, and I'm going to work on the archives. So again, thanks everyone for your comments and your chats. And I'm going to turn this back on over. And this is Auto Hoax, or GTFO.